Hello again, MC. This is reading 849 for you, and we'll do the same as we've done before and focus here, but you know, I like to start here to give us off a little bit of context and so on relative to the questions that you've asked. Now, we start off here with Newen or Ash, and this is a stave that talks about changes, but changes that are imposed on you by other people or by circumstance. This kind of themes the whole of the reading in relation to the question that you've asked me. And you asked me about, is there anything physical that you have to think about in the coming year? And so I'm going to look at your health, that kind of stuff. We're going to look at that previous gentleman that you were in love with and what might be happening there in terms of healing for you. And whether there's some good things to look forward to. Those are the three main things we're going to focus on that you've asked me to look at for you. And so in relation to that, Ash talks about that for the last year and the coming year or so is very much about you've had to deal with a whole pile of situations, but they're not situations that necessarily that are created by you, but that are imposed on you by other people. So the first one that the trees are telling me is finances. Finances are not always an easy thing for you, or not difficult necessarily, but could be a bit easier. But where you are now financially is as a result of what's occurred in the past and situations that were imposed on you. I'm being told here that I don't know the circumstances, but I'm being told here that work is very difficult for you, and that some of that is related to your health, or has been related to your health. Over here we have Elder or Fian, and this kind of themes the last 12 months or so in relation to your question, and that's questions, and it's about seeking advice, it's about seeking support, and that for you, it's been a time, particularly in terms of the relationship that you had, it's been a time of questioning for you over the last few weeks, few months. Why? The question that you keep asking is why? What could I have done better? What did I do wrong? Hang on a minute, I know what I did wrong. Please come back. What can I do to ask you to come back? So it's a whole, you're still questioning. You haven't got past through that grief stage yet of saying, okay, well, it's behind me. I'll find something else to focus on now. So you're still very sad by that. You're still damaged, probably is a term that comes to mind. You're still very fragile around that, with justification, of course. And you're continually asking yourself, what could I have done better? I know what I could have done better. I don't know how to make that better. How do I make it better in the future again? You know, there's so lots and lots of questions happening for you. This one here is Sail or Willow, and this is about intuition, it's about femininity, it's about magic, it's about gut instinct, it's about psychic gifts, but it's the wrong way round. Okay, so we know here, I can sense here a very deep capacity in you in terms of your psychic ability, in terms of your ability to sense other people, in terms of your ability to feel what other people feel. You can on occasions be a bit of a sponge and soak up the energy and the feelings of other people, so much so that they can really drain you, and it can, you know, if someone else is really sad, then you can often take on some of their sadness and absolutely plunge into the depths. So this is very much about you in the last year or so, feeling and sensing other people. Underneath that is Newen or Vine. And this is about harvesting what you sow. Now, this doesn't have a good message, I guess, here for you. I'm trying to find the right words, and they're being a little bit hesitant with me. What they're saying is that sometimes you can be a little bit short, a little bit snappy, a little bit impatient. And that, not that you mean to be, it's not a mean streak at all, but it's about, is it about mental health? Is it about emotional health? Is it about psychological health? And that there are and have been and continue to be some psychological issues for you, some mental health issues for you, which don't always allow you to express yourself, haven't always allowed you to express yourself in the most positive way. You are an incredible person with massive gifts, with massive capacity, particularly psychically and in terms of sensing other people's grief. But you haven't always been in a position where you can honour that by controlling it, I guess is what they're saying. I think there's a bit more to come there yet, but I'm just going to let that kind of circle through. And I think that will make more sense to you than it does to me as well. This one in the centre here is coal or hazel, and it talks about what's happening now, and that for you there is a growing undercurrent, if you like, of coming to a realisation about where you are in life, who you are in life. It's kind of like as though the fog is slowly lifting, particularly around, again, they're saying to me, around mental health, around emotional health. You're beginning to see things now that you may not have seen before, or may not have wanted to see. And in fact, they're telling me that you still don't really want to see this, but it's becoming a realisation nonetheless. Some of this, I have to admit, MC, here, I'm struggling with. So I'm hoping that it makes a lot more sense to you than it does to me. And that's often the case with the readings, that, the messages that come through to me just make no sense, but they make perfect sense to the other person. Okay, so these four over here are the ones that we really want to focus on, that talk about the coming year. And it's headed up with Gort or Ivy. Now this is about hard work. It talks about sometimes in the coming year, and this for you is normal. This, what they're telling me is this is the last year as well, but this will continue. That you put on a brave smile to the rest of the world. You do lots of support for other people, for is there something about animals? You give lots of support for animals. You feel, you sense. Again, it's coming back to this. They're saying you have a really strong psychic ability to sense and feel. Particularly though, you tend to be a bit of a sponge, they're telling me, for negative, for sadness, for upset. So when things aren't going right for animals or for people, you tend to take that on in a little bit of a sponge-like fashion. Not because you want to, but that's because that's the way you were built, and you might not have learnt yet how to control that and how to turn that tap off so that you can protect yourself a little bit. Gort says that you put on that brave smile for other people, but underneath there's such sadness, there's such emptiness, there's such loneliness, and they're telling me self-loathing, that you don't like yourself anymore. I just feel such heavy burden, such sadness for you, that you do a really good job of hiding. I'm going to go through all of these, and then we're just going to summarise this a little bit more for you. This one on the top here is Hawthorn or Huath, and this says that, you know, there are difficulties in the way. Things won't go the way you had planned. Things will take longer than you thought they would. There will be obstacles placed in your way. But, you know, the good thing with Huath is that it doesn't mean to say that things won't happen. It just means to say that you might need to take plan B to get there, if you know what I mean. It's not always going to be, you know, this is your goal and that's and you get it. you're going to have to find alternative routes to get there. You're going to have to find what your plan B is. You're going to have to find different ways to do things. But that's okay, because you're intelligent and you're resourceful, and you just need to make sure that you don't get too disappointed when things don't happen the first time, because they will happen the second or the third time. I have a proviso with that, though, in terms of the person, the gentleman, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The one that's sitting underneath here is oak or dew, and again it's about hard work and dedication. You have a moral base to you, an ethical base to you that is really wonderful. That you try really hard to do the right thing for people who are the victims of injustice, for animals that have no voice. So for the people and the animals and the situations that are, colloquially speaking, shit, you really fight for them and you really stand up for them, and you're going to do more of that this year. So there's a bit of charity work in your future coming up. There's a bit more, even more, I think is the word they're trying to tell me, even more work for you in terms of supporting other people is coming through. And again, I'll pick up on that again in a minute. Underneath here we have Strath or Black Thorn. I have to say it's my least favourite stave because it's about sadness, but I think that you are already, they keep telling me that you know what I mean when I say that for you, you tend to be a bit of a sponge for other people's sadness, and it makes you feel so sad, and it makes you feel so heavy, and so I'm gonna give you a couple of ideas here about shielding yourself, learning to shield yourself from the sadness and the upset and the tears and the frustrations of other people. Okay, I'm just going to write down, I'm going to message you let me just write this down, the URL for shielding. Rather than spell it out for you, I'll actually go on to my webpage when I finish this reading, and I'll find the domain, the URL for an article I wrote about how to shield yourself from the sadness of other people, and I'll Facebook message that URL to you, okay, MC? Because I think that you really need, it might be quite helpful for you in the coming year to learn how do you protect yourself, put yourself inside this nice little shell that enables you to stay emotionally safe when other people's sadness is hitting you, and instead you can sit inside that shell and let that sadness kind of run off that shell and you not absorb it. So I'll email that to you, I'll Facebook message that to you. So in terms of your questions, specifically, I know that you want me to tell you that the man that you are in love with is thinking of you and that you will get back together again. I know that's what you want me to tell you, but I can't tell you that. Too much water has gone under the bridge, too much damage has been done. That relationship is not salvageable. And I know that's not what you want to hear, and I know that that is upsetting, but I also think that you know that that is the case anyway, but that you've been holding on to the dream of that because there is no alternative for you right now. So is there another relationship in the future for you to replace that previous relationship? Because that would be the best outcome. I don't see that in the year ahead. And again, I need to be honest with you. And it would be so much easier if I could just have a beautiful reading that's full of love and laughter and beautiful things happening. But you and I both know, we both know, that's not the way life works. It's not full of love and laughter. Now, that's not to say that there's not a relationship for you in the future after that, because there may well be, but I don't see it for you inside the next 12 months. What I do see for you, though, is a year ahead where you take much more care physically of yourself and emotionally of yourself, because you deserve it. And because if you take that whole year to look after you, recover you, make yourself appreciate who you are and love who you are, then you're in a much better position at the end of that year to give that to someone else and to have that sharing. So what am I saying? What the trees are saying here is that it's really important in the coming year that you take good care of your physical health. So that means they're telling me again that there are some, is it weight issues? They're saying which are imposing difficulties on your heart, on your joints. So you need, if you can, to find someone to help you to control your weight. And that means also looking at your diet, what you're eating. You don't eat a massive amount of food, but what they're saying to me is that there may well be an endocrine issue here, and of course that might be diabetes or that might be any other hormone issue. But is there a way that you can go and see a natural medicine specialist who can do some testing for you and perhaps give you some herbs and some ideas about how you can control your diet so that you can also control your hormonal balance, your endocrine balance, which is going to help your weight, which is going to help your health. And that may be very helpful for you. They're also saying it's really important that you look after your emotional, mental health. And is there a way that you can go and see a specialist to have some form of testing done, some form of continued examination done to look at mental health issues? And I'm not saying you're Looney Tunes, I'm not saying you're mental, I'm not saying you're insane. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that there may well be some mental health issues that are treatable, that you're becoming aware of. You might not know the name of them and you might not know what's going on, but you know that there is something that needs to be looked at. So I'm going to encourage you to go and see your doctor and see if you can get in to see a specialist to sort that out. And once that's sorted out, you're going to be so much relief about, well, this is why I behave the way I do, because I'm being told that you tend to be a bit snappy. I think I've said this before. You tend to be a bit moody, maybe, and that it's not always controllable. So that may be a way that you can learn to control that and to find a way through that. You also asked me whether there was anything good coming up this year. Well, yeah, there is, but it's about you. It's not about things happening to you. So, there's nothing coming up about you winning lots of money or, buying a palace somewhere. It's not that. It's a year ahead where you really are brave enough to open the seal, open the cupboard about who you are and actually look at it properly. And that's frightening, because particularly with emotional health issues and physical health issues, sometimes it's easier just to shut the cupboard, not look at it, ignore it, and just carry on with life. It's really bloody hard work and frightening to open up that cupboard and look at yourself and say, holy heck, I really need to fix this. But that is brilliant, because when you do that, you come out the other side of that feeling much better than you were before. So this is a year of physical health, being honest with yourself and actually doing stuff about that. And it's about your mental, emotional health, again, being honest and saying, I need some help here, get me some help, let's get the right help. That is amazing. And at the end of that, I can see that in between 12 and 18 months time away, there are many more smiles. So Gort, we talked here about how you smile for the rest of the world, but not necessarily, underneath there's a bit of sadness. So in 18 months time, far less sadness. You are far more bubbly, far more happy, far more stable in terms of your emotional health, much more at peace with yourself. In this coming year as well, I think I mentioned it here, there is an opportunity for you to get really stuck into some I'm going to say charity work for the want of a better phrase, but it's around animals, they're telling me. It's around the protection of animals, and you get quite involved in that, in the care of animals. Now, that's fantastic, and it gives you so much pleasure to do so, but I'm also being told that there are allergies potentially for you that you need to be aware of as well. So it might be that homeopathics or some natural medicine help with allergies will also enable you to do more work, more satisfying work, in areas supporting animals and the injustices done to animals than you've previously been able to do. Again, that doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me, but I think that it will make more sense to you. Your animal oracle card is the boar. Now, this is really fascinating for you in terms of your question. The boar, or torque, a really noble animal, really about courage, you know. So remember, I talked about looking at yourself, your health and your emotional health. You have to be brave to do that, because sometimes we don't want to see the things about ourselves which need fixing. Boar is all about that. It's about courage, and he's about leadership, and he's about being open and honest and protecting of self. Boar is, and this is why I find this quite fascinating, one of his key factors is about being honest and having the courage to learn more about yourself. So again, he is about opening that cupboard up and saying, actually, this is the bits of me that could do with a bit of improvement. He's all about that. That's his core. Once you've engaged with that, boar is one of those animals that can really help support that, to keep you warm, to keep you emotionally fed, to keep you supported. He's your feather bed, if you like, that supports you and encourages you and helps you respect yourself. So he's very much about looking within, but then about supporting you once you've done that. So I'm going to really encourage you to go to Google and find out as much as you can about boar as a totem animal, because I think he's going to be really quite helpful for you. So I hope that has been beneficial for you in terms of the questions that you asked, and I know I didn't give you all of the answers that you would really have liked, but I need to make sure that I'm honest with readings.